Right, in this lecture, I want to talk about Islam itself. Now, in the previous lectures, I've talked about American history and about Christianity. My argument is you can't just look at what it says on paper. You have to look at how things have played out historically. I'm a historian. That's what I do. I look at the history. And I would say we need to do the same thing with Islam. Somebody tells me Islam is inherently a peaceful religion. The first thing I think about is when, where. Tell me about it. What period are we talking about? Show me how peaceful Islam was. And don't tell me what it says in the Quran. Don't tell me what it says in the Hadiths. Now, we do have to recognize that even if you look at the Quran and Hadith, there are some difficulties here. I'm not saying there's only one way to interpret Islam, but there are obviously differences between Islam and Christianity when you look at its founding. And it's, Jesus of Nazareth versus Prophet Muhammad. Jesus was a religious leader. He never commanded an army. He never had to deal with prisoners of war. He never had to decide whether or not to sack a city after it surrendered or after his troops stormed it. He never commanded a state. He never had to make decisions about inheritance, about taxation, about anything. We can say, what would Jesus do with regard to policy toward the poor or taxation or whatever, but we don't really know. And you can make all kinds of judgment based on different parts of the New Testament. We do know that Jesus, I can't think of a time where he committed an act of violence, other than turning over the tables of the moneylenders. When he came across a woman who was going to be stoned, he didn't tell her that adultery was okay. He said, "Go and sin no more." So adultery was a sin. But he told, those of you without sin cast the first stone. And she wasn't stoned. I mean, that's the closest we get to him making a judgment. Now, if Jesus had taken over Judea and Samaria and had to make decisions about this, who knows what he would have done? We don't know. It's all speculation. The problem is in Islam, it's not speculation, because Muhammad was a religious leader, but also a military leader. He did deal with prisoners. He did deal with sacking towns and cities. And he was also a political leader who then had to make sense of how you punish people, how you keep things together. So he does have people stoned. He does have people flogged. He does have people driven into the desert. He does have people executed. He personally beheads some people when he takes them, when they fight against him. When tribes rise up or the Jews turn on him, one of a group tribe of Jews, he has them beheaded. And you don't have any of this in Christianity. Now, all that aside, there's plenty of things in the Quran that are not like that. And that's part of the struggle. If you look at the early Meccan surahs when he was just a religious figure, or the later, the Medina surahs, the later Meccan surah, when he's running it and he's getting directions from God about how to run a state, you get very different messages. And that's part of the issue in Islam, is which ones take precedence over the others. And I'm not going to get into all that. Basically, because in many ways, to me, it doesn't matter. If you want to answer the question, is Islam a peaceful religion? Look at the history. Do the same thing with Islam that we did with Christianity. Do the same thing with Islam that we did with U.S. history and the question of equality. Don't tell me what it says in the Declaration of Independence. Let's look at the reality. So that's what I want to do with Islam, is look at the reality of Islam as it progressed.